Historical Library.
The stability of a rotary wing aircraft is particularly difficult. First, the rotation of the blades tends to make the body of the machine turn in the opposite direction. This can be counteracted either by a small vertical tail rotor driven by the same engine as the main rotor, or by two sets of main rotors revolving in opposite directions. Secondly, when the machine moves forward, one blade of the rotor is moving with the airflow, while another is moving against it. The airspeed of a blade increases as it turns towards the nose. This produces unequal lift and therefore instability. The answer to this problem was to hinge the blades so that they could flap and could also speed up or slow down relative to each other. Juan de la Cierva discovered this and so managed to smooth out much of the irregularity of lift. This solved another problem. As the blades of the rotor are no longer rigidly fixed, they are held in position only by centrifugal force. The whole structure is therefore relieved of a great deal of strain. The Cierva aircraft, like this C-19, all use this principle of the flapping blade. But they were not helicopters. They were autogyros. In an autogyro, the propeller produces forward motion, and the rotor is turned by the aerodynamic forces acting on it, and not by the engine. The autogyro was in fact an airplane on which the wings were replaced by a rotor. The ordinary autogyro could not take off vertically, although its takeoff run was very short. In later years, vertical takeoff was achieved in the autogyro by coupling the engine to the rotor. This principle could be used only for the takeoff. Meanwhile, work on helicopters went on. In 1930, Florine showed his machine with a new flapping blade to the public at the Brussels exhibition. In the same year, Descanio established the first world helicopter record with a flight of 8 3/4 minutes, covering 1,000 yards at a height of 59 feet. He reached a speed of about 15 miles per hour. 6 years later, the pilot moves the stick forward. The advancing blade, furthest from the camera, decreases in pitch and flaps downwards. The retreat blade, nearest the camera, increases in pitch and flaps upwards. In effect, the rotor is tilted forward. It thus becomes the means of accelerating the aircraft forward as well as the means of supporting it in the air. The pilot decides to turn to the right. Stick right. The blade on the left flaps up. The blade on the right flaps down. The aircraft goes into a right-hand turn. In 1937, the first really successful helicopter, the ALLLLLL, was announced. The flexibility and control of this machine were demonstrated when Hanna Reich flew it inside the Berlin Sports Stadium. Then another of the pioneers, Igor Sikorsky, who had been working on helicopter design from the beginning of the century, achieved success in America. All these discoveries helped to produce the helicopter as we know it today. It's still curious to look at, but it can fly in a way even surpassing the flight of birds. It takes off and lands, hovers in the air, and even turns a full circle over the same spot. Helicopter design is constantly progressing. The precision of control is something of which Descanio could only have dreamed. A development of the pre-war German ALLLLL, keeping the original rotor configuration, has been made by Sud-Est and is familiar throughout the world. It flew the first certificated U.S. helicopter airmail route, speeding airmail from the Los Angeles airport to the downtown post office and on to adjacent communities.
A forceful descent. The helicopter is serving in the expansion of our vital oil reserves, transporting exploration parties swiftly and economically to hard-to-reach locations. In addition, it can also serve as a work platform for precise geological readings. A military helicopter, the Piasecki, or Flying Banana, is like something out of a story by Jules Verne or H.G. Wells. The Kaman, a military trainer, employs twin intermeshing rotors. These eliminate the necessity of a tail.
But so versatile that it fills an important gap in transport. Rotary wing flight is now a reality. The helicopter is part of a fantastic future in which you and I may fly about in our own private aircraft. But we must not be led astray by a dream. The helicopter will not